Okay. Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, let me tell you.
I thought I was going to ask you.
You know. We were just talking, wondering where they were.
All right. Does everybody have their technology set up? You have your what you need? Okay. We're going to go ahead and get started this morning. Welcome and Happy New Year, everyone. I'm sure everybody's been back at least maybe a couple days, not more, maybe some less if you're lucky. I'm fine with going back. I just don't like getting out in the cold weather. It's miserable, but it's supposed to warm up here in the next few days, so I think we'll all survive.
I think I have one.
Just a couple housekeeping items. Well, I don't really see anybody new. I think everybody's been here before. We'll still go around the table. Just a reminder that we do have a Google Drive folder that contains many documents that we house. They're broken. The folders are broken out into different categories, so you can search for what you need and locate that. So the link is there. If you're having trouble accessing it, just give me your email and I'll shoot it your way so you have access to that. And then I just always leave our photo circle information in the housekeeping area. We don't do that every time, but we do have the same title and photo circle that we use, so that's just going to stay there on the agenda. As far as getting started, Mindy's going to take us through something called colleague circles. I know that Cindy has done this with her staff in some form and fashion as well, and our district is actually going through KLC training where they take you through a process similar to this. And from my understanding is Cindy took it, and I don't know about Mindy, but kind of took this process and refined it to make it a little bit easier to use with a group of people. But as Mindy goes through it with you today, think about how you might be able to take this back with an administrative team, maybe a PLC or a committee, because it's very, very powerful. It does take a little bit of time, but you can refine it and there are time constraints, or how do I say this, is very structured time built into this activity, so you can keep control of that, and as you use it, or if you do use it, you'll know about how much time it would take to go through one of them. So I'm just going to let her take over. And
okay, so I'll give you the formal gist of this, but I'm going to tweak it. We do these in our admin meetings. In our admin meetings, we always have a time to share, and what we found was people were sharing, but we weren't helping them. They were just sharing their problems, and we weren't really trying to help them solve them. And so this was a way to do that. We don't do it exactly like this. Like Holly said, you can tweak it how you like. Because of time, it just depends on how you want to go. So basically, what we do, I'm just going to do it for you like what we do, but I did want you to have the printed copy, so if you want to take it back and remember. We give everybody one index card. They suggest 3. Time-wise, 3's a lot. But we give everybody one index card, and I'll go ahead and give that to you. And I want you to just take a few minutes to think of an issue, a problem, a challenge that you have that you would like input on. Feedback, ideas, You know, we find that our principals sometimes are out in the field by themselves and they have this issue and they're trying to solve it themselves. And sometimes when you get 7 or 8 other people in the room, lots of ideas come forth. And what we have found is this has made conversation at our admin team meetings very, very powerful. But there's direct guidelines. So what I want you to do right now is just think of a problem, an issue, something you're struggling with that you'd like advice, help, something on. So we're going to take, can somebody be my timer with your phone? Anybody? 3 minutes. We're going to take 3 minutes. Think of something you would like help with, advice on, ideas about, anything you're currently working on. If I was doing one, which I'm not, if I was doing one, I'd say somebody help me with EDCS. Because I'm struggling with it right now. But it's not a very good one, but it's top of my list right now.
Pull your hair out.
All right, 3 minutes. And do not put your name on them.
This isn't really going to be good. It's one of a lot of issues you're struggling with.
5 seconds.
Okay.
You made it.
Just in time. Okay.
Anybody else did I forget? Oh, did you do it? Okay, so now you collect the cards, and now what I'm going to do, and you will not talk during this, I'm just going to read through each card, and I just need you to think about what's being asked, because then we're going to kind of do some sorting. This is how we do it. We're going to do some sorting and then decide on a topic we want to tackle. First one. Finding additional time for advanced training for staff. Curriculum work within the district. One building principal has dedicated PD time instead of PLC time. One building principal has dedicated PD time. One building principal has done nothing. How to keep them moving together. Creating face-to-face PLC time or effective ways to have an in-district digital PLC system. How do I get the most value for my students from title support? Finding time and resources to schedule grade level meetings. Issues include full calendar, too many initiatives, budget restraints for subs. Taking big picture vision conversations to the next level. We have a lot of dreamers and too few doers. How do we improve the culture and working relationship among central office staff members? Tracking CTE students for data reporting. Schedule. Finding time for both math and reading MTSS in the 5th, 6th grade schedule, and how to get someone to make math their baby. Facebook posts from parents that speak negatively about how the district handled a criminal situation. 3 things I'm struggling with now. Juggling my roles in the district, principal, curriculum and assessment, AD, district KISA coordinator. Curriculum review of all areas at elementary with a limited staff. Parents that are too needy. Finding adequate time to have K-12 staff members really dig into data from various assessments, data-driven dialogues, DIBELS, pathways, NWA, etc. Okay, so those are issues. So what we do, they'll talk about in your groups, you can vote on a topic, etc. What we do in our admin meetings is we go, okay, do we have any common themes here going on? And we kind of sort them that way. I think there's so many here that I think we have a lot of scheduling themes and that I think each card is so deep, I would prefer just to take one card today and work through. So what we need to decide is which card do we want to work through? And we need to decide that as a group.
Can you read them again?
Yes? Okay. Creating face-to-face PLC time or effective ways to have district digital PLC systems. And some of these, if we pick this card, it may very well overlap into your card. Additional time for advanced training. Getting building principals continue work within the district. One building principal dedicated PT and PLC. One building principal has dedicated PD time. One principal has done nothing. Big picture vision, conversations to the next level. Lots of dreamers and too few doers. Finding time and resources to schedule grade level meetings. Full calendar, too many initiatives, budget restraints. How do I get the most value for my students from title support? How do we improve the culture and working relationship among central office staff members? Taking CTE students for data reporting. Schedule. Finding time for both math and reading, MTSS in 5th and 6th grade. How to get someone to make math their baby. Facebook posts from parents that speak negatively about how the district handled a criminal situation. Juggling my roles in the district, principal, curriculum, and assessment, AD, district KISA, curriculum review of all areas at elementary with a limited staff, parents that are too needy.
Does that sound like, what's her name from Kiowa, South Harbor?
Finding adequate time to have K-12 members really dig into data from various assessments, data-driven dialogue, DIBELS, pathways, NWA, etc.
copiers or they?
So out of saying all those, what are which one, let's just take a vote. Anybody have one they want to tackle?
I like the one that was about, not enough doers. No.
Not enough doers, okay.
Yeah.
Big
Dreamers, not enough doers.
big picture,
Yeah.
big picture vision. Okay, anybody else? I like I thought a common thread was the PLC PD. How do we get enough time? It hits several of the cards.
I like the digital, I mean, we do that, but somebody had talked about how to set up PLC digitally, which maybe that would help with time and stuff.
Like I put an answer in there with the issue.
Finding additional time for advanced staff training, creating face-to-face PLC, or effective ways to use digital.
I think PLCs help your dreamers too. You need to have that time. I mean, I think
Yeah.
those two issues fit together.
Okay, so suggestion, do we want to tackle the PLC and then the dreamers will probably fill into that?
Yeah.
Am I reading that correctly?
Or the other way around.
Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that'll
Okay.
address.
Whose was, okay, so for the next 5 minutes, whose was creating face-to-face PLC timer effective digital PLC? Awesome.
And I was gonna go.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so for the next 5 minutes, I just want you to explain to the whole group your problem, your issues, what you have going on in your district. Give us any background information you can.
It's a new position this year of director of instruction, so I'm kind of figuring it out as I go. And I started off the year with meeting with all certified staff members during your planning period, and just getting to know them and their needs and their wants, set a common theme for our district. What everyone was saying is, I'm going to take the next steps. I need time to communicate with people. Everybody's a master of their own domain. We're all great and we all want to share, and we have to have time for that. For example, even at the beginning of the school year, 3 days of in-service, every minute of that time was filled with other professional development. We had, big district law, we had a new security system that we had to learn about, we had to do more, like what if there's an active shooter, new curriculum things, all of that was taken up. We have early releases every other Wednesday from 2:15 to 3:45, so we get about 90 minutes, about 3 hours a month, but that is all protocol procedure. For example, this month, the two that we have this month, the first one will be assessment security and the second one will be assessment scheduling. So all of those are structured and scheduled before the school year starts. There's just no time to do things like have teachers sit down with their grade level team and go over data. And we just had a district leadership team meeting yesterday where we talked about our R's, and I kind of thought my hill I would die on was picking leadership under responsive culture and saying people want time to communicate, people need time, they need time to talk, and got some interesting feedback from people that, well, they talk about they won't use their time wisely, what are we gonna do? We don't wanna put in so much accountability and so many, different structures that we beat into that because then people will hate it. So I don't know, I got an interesting response from the group involved in that, and none of them are classroom teachers. Just interestingly enough, there are a few they just want to try them yesterday. So getting a little bit of everybody says that they want this. This would be great. Let's get this going, and then everyone will say, it'll be a waste of time. So how do we fit it in? How do we structure it? It's what our teachers want. It's what they're craving. It's what they feel like their next step will be. Trainings and workshops and everything are great because we have no time to plan to implement. We don't go anywhere with it. We dream, but we never do. We have too many initiatives, not enough time to get together. They say that they want it, so how do you make it happen in a way that they will actually enjoy? That doesn't seem like more productive. It seems like just another thing that they have to do that is tedious and arduous. And then, of course, the scheduling thing, where you fit it in. Face-to-face meetings are obviously going to be the most effective. In my opinion, just having everyone together, it's just, I don't know, right there in the moment when it's idea generating, but there just isn't any time. So can it be done digitally? And if it is done digitally, how do you hold people accountable for communication policy? Because you'll get a lot of people who say they want to do something like that and then don't really have to follow through. I've had a lot of people say, oh, I really want to do this book study. Okay, here's your book, let's get it going. But if no one is telling them they have to do it, then it's, oh, well, let's put this off till next month. Let's do this over the summer. Let's do it next year. And it just goes personal time. When you try and do things digitally, then you get into people's personal time and you start to lose interest. So I don't know where am I at my time. I didn't have a minute
20 left.
Oh,
Keep going.
That's still a long time.
If you're done, you can say I'm done.
I think I'm done.
Okay. All right, so now what our job is, and I need a recorder for this, someone that'll just type up or write, I would type, but type the questions. Because what we're gonna do now is Angela is not gonna talk or answer, and you will be tempted to answer and talk, but do not. The rest of us are just gonna ask her questions about her problem, just things we need to know to try to help her solve it. Make sense?
And it's really important that you don't ask the question and provide solutions, because
Yes.
you really need to say, have you thought about doing this? I think we did a book study and then.
Yeah, no.
That's like.
What's the-
You need to say, have you thought about doing a book study? Done.
And always leave
You know,
that.
Yeah, you can't offer suggestions. So like, I'll go first. So I would like to know the setup of your district. How many buildings, how many grade levels, etc.
I would like to know how often are you thinking about having various PLC groups meet?
Cindy, 5 minutes. How often do you currently have PLC groups meet?
How many days are scheduled for meeting in your district?
I would like to know if your staff has been formally trained on the core model of PLCs or something that provides the structure. Your staff will have success with PLC meetings. A lot of times.
What initiatives do you feel get in the way of building this PLC design into your PPT?
I didn't understand the initiatives.
Do you have a strategic plan?
One of the things you mentioned, sorry,
Go ahead.
is that this is a new position. So knowing that teachers have probably been communicating beforehand, how have they been doing that in the past? What did that look like? Prior to the start of this position.
Does your district do a common needs assessment about professional development needs every year? That all staff answers that survey or whatever?
What would you be willing to stop doing to start doing this?
You stated that your first 3 days of in-service were built in every minute scheduled with the have-tos. How else could you do all those have-to things that don't take up huge amounts of PD time?
Who gets to decide the schedule for PD days? Who's the decision maker on that for 2 days, or whatever?
Your early release days, how are they structured? And are they beneficial? And who plans those? 3 questions in one, I guess. Anyone else?
Who's coming up with the ideas
who's on the team that is generating these initiatives. And the second part of that is who are the stakeholders in that? The power.
And do you have an active PDC committee?
And they're the right people on it.
What we got? Anyone else?
I was wondering, how many people are you trying to coordinate for PLC?
Okay, so this next part could take about 10 minutes. We'll go ahead and set the timer for 10 minutes. So basically, whoever was my recorder is going to ask Angela these questions, and she is going to answer, and none of the rest of us are talking. You're not giving your opinion. You're not doing anything right now. So they're going to ask you the questions. You're going to answer, and we're all going to listen. All right? Who was?
I need to take some notes.
Yeah,
I wish
yes.
the streamer doer card got picked.
You'll be really happy when this is all over that you got picked. Yeah.
I started typing since I was right here next to it.
Okay, very good. So you want to read the question for me, Janet? And then
Okay.
she can answer.
Would like to know how the setup of the district, number of buildings, grade levels.
We're a 2A school. We have two different buildings. We have a K-6 elementary and a 6-8 middle school, 7-8 middle school and 9-12 high school are all in one building. They're like 3 blocks away from each other, so we are just right down the street. At the grade school, we are pretty close to 2 classes per grade level. And at the middle school, high school, most people are kind of on an island. Almost everyone is in the department of one. We have a tiny bit of overlap in math, science, and language arts where our middle school, like math teacher teaches 1 high school class. But otherwise, there's really no, I would honestly say, even a huge need for them to have to communicate with each other. But they are the ones that are saying the most and themselves to talk to. That also would speak to, I think, Penny's question that was way down at the bottom about how many people we're talking about. Our grade school certified staff is around 20, and the high school certified staff is like 30. But it's like 50, 60 certified staff.
Yeah.
Where's
And
Tracy?
lots of support staff. that are there.
Retired? I
There's
have
some
no idea.
there
I'll
that are
think
grade
it's
school,
one.
especially with lots of years of experience.
Probably.
And even thoughts to contribute
Been
to
in-
some of our groups, especially in like that and things like that. But
We started there as
it's not huge.
went to Burton as a principal,
How often thinking,
came
how
back,
often are you thinking
principal
about
of
various
Untitled
PLCs?
got moved to
My
assistant.
initial thought on this was, every other Wednesday at 2:15, every Wednesday at 2:15 and twice a month for 90 minutes to an hour, but the logistics of that are very, very, very difficult trying to send kids home at a different time of day, all of that. I would like to say twice a month for an hour or so, but that's just my original vision was, let's just send everybody home every Wednesday at 2:15, problem solved. It's not really easy, so once a month or every other week.
We currently have PLC groups meeting.
0 times a year ever in my 12 years in the industry. As for like a personal group.
Conservative district.
Days are scheduled for PD in your district.
It'd be similar.
Oh, totally administrators, which
It'd be
is
similar.
very interesting, because just yesterday, I heard a comment. we feel like we give people lots of time, or lots of opportunities to provide us with feedback on the PD that they want.
Talk to Tracy at all about it. I mean, I had a.
I guess that's lost on me somehow as to when you're asking our opinion. And even if the students are asked, coming from last year, I can say, perhaps we're asked to give our opinion, feeling amongst staff members is not that their opinions aren't valued, or that we offer suggestions and they ever actually have one comments to pass. As for early release, also early releases and how we use our in-service days, all of that, they have an administrative retreat after the last 5 or 6 years. An administrative retreat at the beginning of the summer while they're still on contract time after they find home, and they find that all out for the year at that point in time. Those are those 2 days. Oh, 3 at the beginning of the year.
Weird way, everything went down. It's just kind of, I don't know what's got me.
4 throughout the year.
Yeah, I think it's interesting.
I know that there's a big
District. It's
okay, 4 throughout the year, 3 at the beginning of the year, and then our last day of school after the students like that's always
Big enough that they don't have that.
day where when you're working stuff, you go home and you know what we're doing. So
Not
that is what.
end of it, I should say that.
Has your staff been formally trained on the PLC model?
good.
You know, Kingman, there's people here that say, well, man,
Initiative,
I come on here. Come on.
what initiatives are getting in the way of the building?
Which isn't a great idea.
It's not a great idea. It wouldn't work. I mean, basically, abandoned perfectly good building, best building.
This year, they've given me some.
Potentially, that building appears. But in terms of.
We're gonna run it type of days, so we talked about some different things in the past.
It doesn't make any sense. And it's not education.
So I've had a heavier meeting than I maybe thought that I was going to get, or even maybe when they played it last week, they
Yes.
thought they were going to give me.
High school,
And they
high school coming up here. Gave that to me.
smile, and I have a few times,
Down there.
and that has been nice, and I think that has been effective.
It's
So
too far.
hopefully in the future,
Even for that.
I think I will be a little more involved in planning the early
You know, it's just high
I
school.
don't think I'll
That's
ever
what
get
I'm
pizza,
saying on it.
I have always spoken against it. It doesn't make sense. But
especially with pizza, and that's what we're doing
up to there is 20.
next Monday, but the following March, or January 15th.
35 miles.
All day until
Our reach is
October. And I'm looking at what we've got coming up, our March in service day.
County.
First of all, you get some people back.
That's all our
People, a lot of,
budget stuff, some teacher work time,
plus, I mean,
all those in-service things, it really, although everyone hates it,
it's hard for the media.
you just kind of have to be done that way. You have to fit that in somewhere.
He'd have 4-3 split.
Beginning of the year stuff, and those curriculum training,
Yeah.
you have to do it at some point in time, so I feel like they are effectively used.
Yeah.
Although they are kind of dry for it,
Nothing.
it has to be done.
Place packed. They,
Has the district taken time to prioritize?
No, and I love that question. And
Oh,
I
they
thought
would.
that's what everyone needs to do.
yeah.
Let's make a list of all of these new big ideas that we have, and let's put in order of what we
K-12
want.
somewhere happening.
Because we have lots of doers, and we have lots of doers also, that don't know what they're supposed to do.
I still think
What's
we're
mine, except like, this is a great plan, what do I do?
good at it. Pretty great.
Oh, I think if we did it, I think us being invited to go to.
Yeah, step in, so actionable steps and prioritizing what we want to happen for
Your future.
both of our.
No, I don't know. I haven't talked to Tracy at all.
We do, we created one.
My guess is actually he's
Community meetings.
gonna take his camper and go and something else. Principal or look for another.
What has the past communication been?
I don't know. He's Catholic like a lot of.
That one was a question I thought maybe I can go more clarity on, like, how are teachers communicating their needs or
Future.
thoughts? As for, you know, if teachers in the past have communicated something that they wanted.
I guess.
They want to talk to their administrator about
Tracy,
that.
you guess would be.
We have
It's a pretty.
75 to 60% of that. Both
years,
communities.
but our high school principal was third year.
Funded Catholics.
And so there has been some, loss, breakdown of communication
Priest and
because it happens naturally.
Dan was
Like
Catholic.
one person, our elementary school principal, you've been there forever, and a lot of us have been around for a long time. It's like open door policy, you have no problem whatsoever.
I mean,
If someone new comes in, you're gonna be a little more hesitant.
Born.
Like, probably telling them.
some of the stuff they do.
Excellent.
Same thing with our high school.
Very, very
He is
good.
wonderful,
He just
but
skip.
openly admits that he is guiding you through instruction.
Nobody is forced to go to their,
Area,
whatever time they call it.
Which is religion.
you know, he does a lot more of the, I love the one about like Facebook slamming your school district. Like, he is a master at handling.
You know, and part of me thinks
handling upset
if
parents,
that's what the
but it's
community
a little
wants,
hands-off when it comes to.
what's wrong with that?
Wrong with it, that goes
Does
in.
your district have a common need?
Is are you,
No, KISA is making us be a lot more self-reflective than we have ever been in the past. We did our needs assessment. this
Would
fall,
support it.
Just spent some time looking at how
but
people filled out that rubric yesterday, and that was, I think, very powerful.
I
for
think
everyone to really see how
the kids who come up and fight it,
conversation about it.
okay, when, exactly.
We haven't done it in the past, but.
Well,
I know it's not this year.
just don't come.
Are there things they're willing to stop to do?
And that, the vast majority of people don't. And so you've never had any complaint about.
Outside of the hours of 7:45 to 3:45.
But
But some of that was tried
you get,
last year and it was not.
And-
effective. I mean, you just can't, I mean, I in particular have a 2-year-old that has to be picked up.
Yeah, but if you're not going to participate in
5 a.m. and no one else wants to.
their
And,
things,
so they wouldn't want to give up time outside of school and I'm hoping in the school day.
I mean, yeah, it seems like it's not just about the prayer, it's more anger issues than that.
Just wanting to be a dick.
Yeah.
Now, okay, we talked about,
Yeah, the 3 days.
yeah, the in-service days and
I
how.
was like, wait a minute, we've answered that one. I think we-
Trying to
Yeah. Early release days, are they structured? How are they structured? Are they beneficial and?
They're very structured for the most part, and we have that schedule going in at the beginning of the year. It depends on the topic who the planner is for those. A lot of times it's either myself, our title director, one of the 2 counselors, or an administrator. I don't think it's ever teacher driven. I can't recall a time in the past where it's ever been, hey, you're an expert in this area, we have new block science curriculum. You know, one person off the top of my head, Lori Price, you really mastered how to use all those teachers. Sit down and teach everyone else how to do that. It's never been like that before. It's always admins or directors.
How many more questions do we have, Jen?
1.5.
Okay, let's finish.
Who is coming up with the ideas to generate the initiatives? Who are the stakeholders?
We've got initiatives coming from all over. Things that teachers want to see happen, things that administrators want to see happen. We've got lots of big ideas. But not this year because of some interesting turnover, but the previous 2 or 3 years, we've had a lot of young people with big ideas at the grade school. That came up with some flexible seating and different scheduling and all of ideas flying all around because that's how you are when you're 22. But then now the time all of you on those, and then at the high school, middle school, high school, the initiative, somewhat coming from teachers, but that would be more administration initiatives at our school.
The last one was, do you have an active PDC committee with the right people on it?
Just asked me that question this week. I talked about our PDC committee, and I said, I think it's still our ag teacher. And I don't really know what he's going to do for you. So that was the one question I was like, I told someone a name this week, but I don't even know myself if it's the right name. And I think there are people involved in that group, but I probably should, but I don't. We send all of our PDCs, like when we need license renewal, we do all that through Southwest, like use their portal. So it's, type it in and they eventually get the permission when you're done.
Okay, so now what is going to happen, Angela, you are actually going to turn your chair so your back is to us. You'll probably want a pad of paper and a pencil with you to jot down notes. And so the rest of us are going to take 10 minutes just to offer suggestions. This is our time to talk and say, hey, what about trying this? What about trying that? And you are not part of the conversation. You are just listening. Okay? All right. Ready? Everyone, thoughts? Go.
You have 10 minutes?
Yep. Nobody? Well, one thing we have tried this year is we have done PLCs, we've been trained in PLCs, but because there couldn't always be an administrator around at each PLC, we felt like they were becoming not as effective as they should be. Not sure everything that was getting done, not the in-depth conversation. So we started Teaming Tuesday. I stole it from Cindy, actually. Love it. Right now we're just meeting with, I am just meeting with each PLC group once a semester for half a day. It's been awesome. It's revitalized things, great conversation. We can dig into data. It's been great. So that has been something we've done. It's every Tuesday. So kindergarten teachers come in the morning, first grade teachers come in the afternoon, so we use the same subs. I like the half day because I think full day sometimes gets wasted. It's too much. So that's one suggestion.
We're using the early release. You mentioned having two. We have a weekly early release. So for accountability, that you were talking about, what we've done for accountability is that we have a building leadership team member leads each of the PLCs, and they take minutes and send the minutes back to all PLC and admin members in each building. So you have some records of what the discussions are and how people are doing it. That early release time for us has been what we needed for teachers to have conversations.
We created a Google form that had to be filled out at the end or at some point that day after a meeting, so that there was the accountability and everybody had to fill in something, not just one person did it, like there's also feedback on what happened. We have PLCs for grade levels or different special groups, etc., and done this for many years. I did it back when I was at Renwick as well, but I'm very detail oriented, pretty structured agendas where the format, we use the DeBoer model, and the format of the agenda, you have, why are we meeting? I mean, it's very structured, but then one thing that that has kind of evolved, and I think it works better, is I used to create the agendas. I mean, I would get feedback from teachers, but what I do now is I might have a couple of things that I fill in the agenda, but then, for example, all of the fourth grade teachers, depending on what building that they're in, those two teachers in that building are in charge of facilitating a majority of the meeting unless there's something else going on, like a science rep needs to speak or be in charge. But they go in a Google Doc and they type in all the additional items that they want to tackle during, sometimes it's 2 hours, sometimes it's 3 hours, it varies throughout the year how long the PLC agenda is, but then they have that ability to take charge of the PLC for a majority of it, and they're tackling things that are important to them. I do go back and I look at that, and then at the end of the meeting, there's a place in the agenda. I put it at the bottom of the agenda, not in a separate document, where they have kind of a table where they have to put in reflection information. So then, like one of the boxes might say questions we have for Holly or administrators. So then I go back, and then another box says things we still need to work on at our next PLC. Things we accomplished. So the administrators and I, after the PLC, this is the accountability piece. When I meet with them one-on-one, I have them all linked, and we go into every single PLC. We scroll down, we look at the agenda, and we read through the reflection. So those administrators at whatever elementary, middle school, or high school can see what those groups have been working on, and if they have questions for them. It works really, really well. It takes a little bit of time and energy, but it works.
The required trainings that take up so much time of PD, we've kind of gone to where I just have links to different things, and so we give them an hour and a half to go do it all, sign off, and just be done with it. Some of them do it in the summer. I send it to them August 1st. So if they want to be done with it then, they get it done then. So we don't actually, I don't want to say waste PD time on required trainings.
Now, one solution I was thinking is, although the time's limited, is restructuring the time. So doing it virtually, the required trainings, like there's programs out there you can do Spread to, School Works, all those things. That, I mean, some of them cost money, some of them are free. We could all use this one. Safe Schools, and doing some of that, and then that would free up some of your required training time that you can use for something else at the beginning of the year. And saying at the beginning of the year is only important for the PLCs to me. And then the structure of those PLCs, I think you have to educate your staff on what the expectations are a little bit. And then it sounds like maybe the first thing is to put that team together to figure out what those priorities are and narrowing it down and get like a laser-like focus and just say this 1 year, maybe it's just going to be practicing PLC structure and educating everybody what a PLC is through the, our implementation of some matter, whatever that priority is, and then come up with a long-range plan. And the second year, we're going to work on that. And the third year, and then communicate that to everybody and say, this is what we're going to start doing. So they're all like, don't feel like things are just coming at them all the time. They're like, this is the plan, and then implementing that plan. There's a lot of layers there that you're going to have to break down a little bit.
I do think, right, piggybacking off of what she said, it is so important. If you want your PLCs to work, the teachers need to truly understand what is a PLC and what's the purpose and the intent of it. And then that next layer, in my opinion, and you can go about this in different ways, is much of the time is you should be looking at data and how students are doing. So you can't just expect teachers to know how to do that either. You have to train teachers on how to analyze data and whether you use the data-driven dialogue process or some formal process that you come up with for your district or certain grade levels, so they know how to, so they can be successful and really benefit from doing that as well. Otherwise, I think many times PLCs, people feel like it's a waste of time because people are not doing the things during the PLC time that they need to be doing. It's a lot of housekeeping or talking about things they shouldn't be talking about, so that, again, the structure is really important if you want it to be successful and meaningful for the groups.
And I think a key part for us, and this is just our experience, I'm not saying this is worth it for this district because I don't, the size of it's different, I think size does matter, is that we pay a team leader to be in charge of the PLC. So it's not just a group randomly like, oh, this team takes charge. Pretty soon we're talking about it deteriorates very quickly that we pay someone in there as a team leader in our supplemental schedule. And that added to the responsibility and the accountability of the PLC. That gives me somebody to talk to, and they report back to me. So it's sort of a hierarchy. That I think is a key component of it. And you know, just for my understanding, you said early release time. We tried that early release time, and it didn't work very well for us. It makes me wonder if you can restructure that time for PLCs, because you lose coaches at 2:30, and then pretty soon people are like, it takes you 15 minutes to get in there, and another 10 minutes to get organized, and then people are kind of coming down, somebody to the bathroom, and then like suddenly that hour and a half turned into 40 minutes of true time, and then we lost all our coaches anyway, and so it makes me wonder if you couldn't restructure that to get more powerful times together. Instead of doing it twice a week early release, just do a half day or a full day once a month or something where you can really, because a PLC will take more than 45 minutes to really get into it.
We do it late. When we started PLCs years ago now, 14 years ago, the very first thing I did was set principles down and said, what are the big things? We had to come to some agreements and non-negotiables. We wanted in all 5 buildings, not 6, because then we did have some of the, I do a little this, we do a little that, and it caused some issues between buildings, because why do they have to do this if they're not doing that? So the very first piece I did was set them down and said, okay, what are our common non-negotiables? And the non-negotiable is a 30-minute PLC. Nobody has a 30-minute PLC. Everybody has an hour PLC. Because once we had a 30-minute non-negotiable, they went back and built their schedules with, okay, so we're going to find that it didn't just go from an hour. I'm like, well, there you go. Go above and beyond. I love it. So we now have an hour, and we did the early release for like 2 years. It was a disaster, and so we stopped doing that. Our teachers have an hour PLC built into their schedule throughout their day. Not everybody can do that because that's part of their plan time, then a piece of their plan time is their PLC time. I don't. We used to do the feedback sheets, all that. I don't do that anymore. The building principals do. Some of them give them a feedback sheet to give back to them. I trust them to do it. I don't need to see it. So that all happens in the building. We do have at minimum every other week, although most of them do it every week, a para PLC, where paras get 30 minutes at least of PLC time because they're helping deliver that instructional program. A lot of it for them is more training than a traditional PLC, but it is our para PLC time. But it's kind of just how we do business now. And I don't worry about all those little details. I just trust them to do great stuff. I'll be invited to their PLCs. I'll go sit in on PLCs. A lot of principals do get a feedback form for them, but I'm not as good at them on it.
Anybody else have any suggestions? Okay, so Angela, now you're going to turn around and you're just going to take 5 minutes, and it doesn't have to be 5 minutes, but just to reflect on what you heard, if there's any things you have more questions about, or how this was beneficial to you, what you might take back, etc.
I love the very first idea on the team Tuesdays and thought that like immediately that was something that I could possibly happen. Because, and that was the idea that really stood out the most to me, because like we need to get more people together than just at the grade level, and our grade level teachers at the elementary would be the only ones that would have common plan time to begin with, and our high school teachers, even our 2 math teachers in the entire district don't have a common plan time. They're back to back
Because,
but they're not, just because of the way our middle school high school schedule, they don't line up exactly. So I love that idea of just taking a half day and getting all interested parties or all stakeholders in that conversation together. We have been using half-day meetings for our like our curriculum review team this year, and so that's been a lot of people with a vested interest in driving that forward. And I feel like they have been effective. I got some flack about scheduling and it's more time, and but I think as the year has gone on, they're enjoying those. So I can see that being something that would be very effective for us. The stumbling block there with subs. We don't have a lot of subs. We're just small and getting smaller, and yeah, I think everyone fights that. So my thought there would be we fight finding subs, and it wouldn't necessarily always be a consistent group in our district because some people might be stakeholders in this conversation that wouldn't be stakeholders in another conversation, especially at our middle level high school. People who all give assessments and looking at assessment data would look different than a group of your CTE teachers getting together. But I think they get very rough here. So I love that idea. And that was kind of like, oh, why have I not thought of that? So I also really loved the idea of having a specific team leader and it be someone involved in that building leadership team that can report back. That our building leadership teams are interesting this year. I don't know why the elementary one doesn't have a single classroom teacher on it, other than the fact that everyone is new in our school district. There's another element I didn't share. At our elementary school, and it's our staff of 20, and that includes our counselor and our title teacher, we have 7 new staff members. So we have a massive amount of people that are new at that building, which I think creates more of a need for this. So when we went to put together our building leadership team, it was like, really on this because everyone's new. And that's how we ended up with people, our counselor, our title teachers, of course, but people, it's a really, really good group. We just would need to think, I think just in general, we need to think about But yeah, having a team leader that reports back to another group of public accountability too, I really like that. And Google Forms, I like creating Google Forms. Everyone's so sick of my Google Forms. So that was what I was like, oh, definitely involving in Google Forms in some way. And the idea of a structured agenda that we may add to, we've been doing that for our PLT meetings using the Kansas Star. They kind of give you, the bare votes and you drop them in, and that's so nice. It's so important to have. Again, that goes back to the amount of prioritizing what you really need to talk about, because if you just leave it open to get together and talk about our initiatives, number one, the first thing everybody's going to do is just bitch about the initiatives, because that's just what we naturally do, and then maybe get to the problem later on. So knowing exactly, starting with the positive, all that, I love that idea. The required training, that is one, doing those in the summer, doing those digitally, that came up last spring, and I love that. I was like, let's use Edpuzzle, make them all watch it, and our superintendent really felt adamantly this year that stuff needed to be done face to face. That's something I won't fight him on. And that one was pretty fast when it came to all those like the suicide prevention. That he felt like we needed to be together in one room to take that seriously, and I did agree with his viewpoint on that. Although I would have sat down and watched it and got something on it. Can't guarantee that everyone would have. And that one was about a half day. The other requirements of like we have to learn to use our safety system. We have to sit and listen to boss training stuff. So some of it could have been done digitally, some of it could have been done up. And we don't typically use all of the safety gear for instance, or for structured meetings. It was just kind of a weird year. So I think we could take some of those things off of those days and create some more time. And what came out of that conversation, what hit me is we need to structure some PLC time in those first 3 days, especially when we have such high turnover. We have 1 million new people. Like some of them, it's just everything has been dramatic. One of our new teachers has a brain tumor and had been in Houston all summer long. Like, did not come back from cancer treatment until Friday before the school year started. Had never been in the building or even met her co-teacher, and there was no time for them to get to know each other. So that is an extreme situation, but at the root of it, everyone should have some time. You can't guarantee what people's summer looks like. You can't say, hey, you guys want to work together, get together in the summer. You never know where you're what you're doing. So I think something that I took from that, we've got to include that in those first days, even if it's your work time, that first portion of your work time, you're going to sit down and you're going to and talk about these things until you bring here, or for your content area. Educating staff on the expectations of the PLC 100%, and then definitely thinking, I can't think in any way that I can do this alone. I need to think about who I want on a team to help me figure out how to make this happen. I've been kind of, pulling this over. This is my cross bear. I don't make this happen, and there's just no way that I can do it by myself. So, okay, there.
Okay. Effective? Are you glad we picked your problem?
100%. It was very stressful for me, but yeah, super effective. And I left our district yesterday feeling well. I mean, I ended up voting for instruction anyway, but going, man, I was so passionate. I came in here guns and blazing. We're going to get leadership on here and fix this problem. And I went, okay, not problem solved, not our district goal, but now I have some action steps that I think we'll be able to add it to the vision without it having to be in our keys and model. So I very much appreciate your work. That was fun.
So I'll keep the cards. So if you want to tack some of them or add more next time, we can. And that's just kind of how we do calling circles. It's just a little different from the formal that I gave you, but we try to do one at each admin meeting. So thank you.
Thanks, Mindy.
So for EdTech updates, just 2 things. In the agenda, I put a link from Robbie that Robbie wanted to share that has come out after she met with you last week on Common Lit. There is actually, she's linked the presentation. She goes, I don't think that anybody's going to want to actually do the presentation, but I put in there, slide 11 is a 10-minute video that teachers could watch to help them navigate the site and the system. And so that just might be a quick place for you to have that read. She wanted you to have that direct link to that video that you might choose to share form to pass on to them. And then the second thing is Clela's gonna take 2 or 3 minutes here just to throw some bait in the water. Hey, if you need this information, be sure and contact Clela and she can help you with that.
Carla, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Jerome's on 3-4 has a question about Dan Helm's badge.
And the bullet sheet I'm going to give you is, uses the 1819 credits and all that kind of thing. So I want to make sure you guys realize that they did make one change for 1819, and it required business law. But anyway, what I want to do is show you with the bullet sheet how you could create a government pathway using core classes. Halstead has already done this. I'm working with Jana to get on the CTE webinar sequence, that kind of thing, so that we can explain this. But I thought that while you guys are applying for pathways, you might want to do this because needless to say, that would be more funding for your school district and yet very doable for your school district. So, and I just thought that this bullet sheet might be kind of helpful for you to kind of just see how doable it is. The introductory level you can put with your 8th grade social studies, and the technical level you could put with either American history or U.S. government. And then your application level, most of them are doing it with American history. And then the application level you can put with the government. And then there's already a statewide articulation agreement, so you don't have to go track one down. The employee agreement requires 2 credits to be taken by the student besides those first 2 classes. But if you look at this, a lot of you offer accounting, some of you offer career and community connections. And notice that that 3rd class I mentioned is one of the 2 credits that you could choose. So you can see how doable this is. They did make business law required for this next year, but it's available through the Kansas Virtual Technical College. Hutch JUCO's offering it as an online class. So it is still a pathway that every single school district in the state of Kansas could do. And I just thought I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of how you could do this, because now that weighted funding has come back, I think you probably want to do this. Plus, it makes your social studies offerings more career connected, which is where we're headed with this whole, transformation of school learning anyway. So I just thought, and there are 4 pathways that are tied with 4 classes. The other 3 I've talked on before. Just for those of you that are kind of vaguely familiar with the engineering design thing that we did, that we are doing, I will have the crosswalk of the design challenges all fully delineated for each of the core classes by the February conference. I'm presenting at the CTE conference. And I think that's going to help school districts to really see how doable it is, like which math standards align with this design challenge, that kind of thing. So it's going to make it easier for your geometry teacher to see how that can fit in geometry. Oh, and to see how this could fit with algebra 2, and how it can fit with physical science and physics. So hopefully that will start to make more sense to you. So any questions for me? Okay, I hope this is helpful.
And I did also attach that sheet in the agenda if you need it later.
I have December 8th down for state assessment, but real quick, we won't spend a lot of time. Does anybody, it does look like one person typed in having a question about doing test security in a creative way. Does anybody have any fun ideas? Who posed this one? Marianne. Oh, okay. Does anybody do anything fun?
Right on, girlfriend.
You do?
My creative way is to use.
I make the flavor on it, but I just used her idea and went with it.
How about you, that you did?
Well, I used it and I put up, well, as adopted by Holly Francis. And everybody wants to know who Holly Francis is. I get a ton of emails. Now, who's Holly? Is she working in our district? So I've got to make sure I put.
I could have guessed it, and somebody tried to do a link to hers, and she goes, yeah. Oh, I forgot to change the link, sorry.
Mine, I'll put it in here and I just redid the one for 2018, but what I simply do is I create a slideshow and then I do a voiceover and I do the training. And I try to be cheerful.
Okay.
And I don't add any jokes or anything like that. I just go through it. It's pretty quick. But you get the information. If they need to go back to it, they can. The nice thing is they can do it on their own time.
Okay.
So that I don't have to go out 15 times and provide the same repeated training over and over and over again, or if I build a principal, then the same information is getting out to every single person. So I haven't done the voiceover yet, but I'll be happy to put the slide here, and if you guys want to take it and just make a copy and you can use it or not. The one thing I'm not exactly sure if the reactivation piece, I think I have it right. The only thing that's really different, my understanding is, and I talked to Lee, is that there's no longer any 90-minute reactivations. So if the kids are testing, and if that time lapses and they can just log back in, but there will have to be some reactivations, like if they end the test session, or they finish all of them, you obviously have to go back and reactivate. But other than that, the only other piece was the calculator piece, maybe. That, and I don't even know if I put that in here, but because the rule is still the same, they use the calculator on the calculator version, but now they have the option, and it is in here, that they can either use their own calculator, or my understanding is the kite one will drop down as well. Other than that, it's pretty much the exact same thing as last year, but I'll share that, and it's not creative.
You don't do face-to-face at all?
I used to, but this actually works better because they can go back to it.
Okay.
And I used to have like I think it was a 2 or 3 page document. It was just bulleted. I mean, it was crystal clear, and I would go out and really just verbatim read it. So I put it into kind of a slideshow, so it's chunked a little bit better. And the night, again, they can go back to it. And then if somebody misses, like if somebody were to miss the training before, I'd have to have makeup training. So they just go back in, and then at the end, there's a link to a Google form. A Google Doc, where they go in and they type in their name. And then if they have any questions, to the right of their name, they type in their question. Because that was the part where I was a little concerned. Well, what if a para or somebody new has a question? So, or they know they can call me, but type your question in here, and then I just respond back to them. It works well.
I don't mind doing it, but last year I ended up doing it 4 times.
I did it about 15
I was worried myself.
I mean, you feel like you're like a recording.
I know, and then I'm also like, did I already say this? I mean, it's like those days when I first started teaching, I'd have to check off first hour, second hour. But, yeah, and my concern is, I guess that was my concern, because I have a high school teacher who I always joke with the high school principal, is she gonna wait until before or after 8 o'clock on the first day of testing to tell me she doesn't have a manual? So, yeah.
I do meet with the new staff.
That's what
last year I didn't, and this year I'm going to. So anybody that's never given a state assessment, they meet with me.
Then you kind of set up your.
And it doesn't, and it doesn't necessarily mean a new teacher. If they've just never, if I go through and if they've never given the state assessment in our district, I meet with them, even if they've given it at some other district. Just to make sure that they answer questions, because the way we do things might be a little bit different as far as like, oh, are we doing it in our rooms or right?
I would say that this is just the test security administration and ethics part. I go out, I call it state assessment training. I do 2 other ones prior to that, so they're familiar with the test types like the interims. So I go out and I do that. And then the second one, and I'm getting ready to do it right now, is I go out and I talk to the teachers about, we have a Google sheet that we use that has tabs, and it's like the house of all the state assessment documents is all in this Google sheet. So I take them on a tour of that. It's pretty similar, but the main purpose of this month's meeting is to make sure that they go into, there's a tab where they enter their accommodations for their kids, because those have to be in, in the next couple months, because you have to have them in by February. And that part, in my opinion, is important, that you go out and re-explain that to them so they do it right. But the test security, ethics, and administration piece, I think, I don't know. Okay, that's my opinion. But I like your idea, Cindy, of doing that.
I didn't understand.
Anybody else have a different way of doing it? Fun way. I've heard of people do Jeopardy games and.
My problem is I try to do the whole district, and the elementary would love that, and high school would be like.
So like hurry up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a no-win situation. We try to be fun and no, I don't.
Well, 2 years ago, I said I'm only doing it twice, because we don't have an in-service day at the beginning anymore. So I do an early morning one, 7 o'clock, and then I would do an afternoon one. Well, I had a couple teachers who missed both of those, and the principal was like, well, when are you gonna do makeup? And I said, I'm not. Those people can't do state assessments. So my high school principal was scrambling to get that teacher covered for because I wouldn't let them test. And so last year, everyone attended. It was
You know, the other thing to think about is where I have a struggle with or did before trying to figure it out was the parents, because I can't pull them after contract time. So, and they work for the interlocal, a lot of them, so trying to pay, and it's just all a nightmare. So by doing it this way, they can do it during their contract day. You know, they have 2 months to do it, and there's no issue with trying to find a time when I can meet with the paras at the middle school, but they don't all have it resolves that pretty quick. And like I said, the makeups, you don't have to worry about that.
Thank you. That's a good idea.
Anybody else? What else about estate assessments? It's kind of that time of the year where we're starting to gear up for it. Anybody new that has questions about things maybe you should be doing or that you're not certain about?
Okay, I might be really blind. We got our email probably reminding the coordinators to go in and review the ethics and sign off. I couldn't figure out where to go sign off on, and I couldn't find it at the bottom either. I didn't see something. Well, when I went to it, it wasn't there. That's what it was.
It's inside and it's located in, one of the slides.
Yeah, and I did that, and I went there, and it wasn't there. Maybe I caught it on the day that was down or something was wrong.
It wasn't like, it doesn't pop out at you, you have to go find it.
Well, that's what they want, I'm sure.
You gotta
Okay,
read.
I just wanted to make sure I'm.
Is it in the slideshow at the
It's
end?
inside, and it's not at the end.
No, it's like 2/3 of the way through. Because there's a section after the sign off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm like, did I do that?
Maybe I bet you get an email.
Well, I clicked on something and it went to like, I got that little screen, little bird that says, you're not, but you look great, this is not. And I thought, well, maybe they're either down or I don't know.
Oh.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay,
So let us know what they.
one thing we have on the agenda that's kind of an ongoing item, and we don't tackle it every time, maybe every other time Angie's not here, but we wanted to continue having conversations about redesign, and we do have a couple of people in the group, at least two, I think. Of course, Angie's a Mercury district, and then Mindy is a Gemini district. Thinking about that, the Mercury district is full forged ahead. They're on a very tight timeline and have to get something implemented by the end of this school year, if I remember right. And then Mindy, as a Gemini school, kind of doing the same process, but half slower. Yeah, just at a slower pace. So I'm going to let Mindy kind of share what she's doing as a Gemini district for redesign currently.
Yeah, well, Garden Plain High School and College Elementary are two schools that are doing it. ESDAC is coming in and consulting. Ginger's covering high school and Katie is covering College Elementary. We thank God every day that we didn't get chosen for Mercury. Because we have thoroughly enjoyed not rushing and shoving things down our throats and really exploring things and having good conversations. Every school has four basic committees. One, scheduling is a huge committee, parent and community involvement, social emotional, but they're all working through different scenarios and things. I mean, it's just lots of field trips to other schools, seeing how things are doing. It's huge. It's great conversations. Like today, for example, Garden Plain High School, it's our kids' first day back today in our district. So today, Garden Plain High School is doing intercession classes, kind of like college had a long intercession. They're doing one day of intercession classes.
And the kids brainstorm things they'd always wanted to learn about, and it doesn't necessarily have to be academic. Like some of the kids are taking a quilting class, some kids are learning how to play chess. Our business manager is going over and doing a half day on I-9s, filling out tax forms, how to fill out a job application. And so kids just signed up for different things. Teachers took ideas kids wanted to learn about that they already knew. And so that's what this whole day is about, just different types of teaching that aren't the norm. So I'm pretty excited to go back and see how that's going. Just looking at schedules, throwing around, you know, do we need a whole block? Can we be more flexible with our schedules with high school kids? And okay, there's just a lot of good stuff, but I'm so glad that we're not being hurried to implement something. I mean, I don't know how many times we've said it over and over. If we had to be implemented by May, we would have just been picking stuff and going, let's do it. And we're really getting to be more thought-provoking and intentional about what we are picking because we're not being rushed. So it's been awesome.
I think the interesting thing that I see from the outside perspective is we're actually in some ways potentially moving faster.
I agree.
Because like you were today back, you're already trying something new and doing something, but like you didn't have to build this huge plan and it has to go right here. You know, your administrators and staff said, hey, let's do this, see what happens, and then how do we want to expand that for later? And so in some ways, it may seem like you're going slower. I almost think in some ways, some of the components you're moving faster, but it's not this regimented, okay, and then here is exactly the timeline of the next step and how it has to be done. Let's do it, reflect where you want to go from there.
Mindy, can you share, is there a specific guidelines or paperwork or something that you're working through? For example, like where you come up with the core groups are there certain tasks that the KSE is requiring that you complete, or is it
redesigning is out there, and you know, we meet every couple of weeks on a webinar with KSE, but as far as like an exact script of here's what you need to be doing.
But do you use that playbook? Parts of it,
you know, we started out with studying like discipline before, yeah.
Oh, 40 hours.
Yeah, thanks, Blake. We started there, but we just kind of been all over the place.
Did you go through that playbook though and kind of discuss pieces and then
we did it
to help
first
you
as an
wrap your head around
administrative team? We did, yeah, because it is. I mean, basically, it was a lot of brainstorming at first. If we had no rules, what would we want school to be like for kids? And then from that, we said, okay, let's get some committees on researching things. So
I really like that part of it too, where it forces you to kind of take a look and brainstorm it.
There's no rules. What do we do?
And was it in 10 years, or was there something in there about what you want your school district to look like in 10 years? Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Well, before we move on to a different topic, we'll take a break after this. Does anybody else have something they want to share in regard to the redesign efforts in your district? Maybe you've gotten started, or just sharing out maybe some things that you're doing, or maybe even a question that you have for Mindy or anybody in the group?
My card was the dreamers and doers, because it relates to the redesign stuff. So we have all these ideas, right? I mean, like, and not one is really better than the other. They're all great ideas. It's like, how are you guys? How are you going to go about implementing and prioritizing the good ideas? And like, so you have all these things. I guess in my mind is thinking that you're probably the same place. That you've got all this stuff floating out there.
Yes.
So then, how do you?
I think that's probably as type A as I am, and as type A as one of our principals. that's probably what stumbles us the most, because we have all these things and we just like compact them. But I don't know that we found the right answer to that yet.
I know in this early phase, one of the things, and this is not using 40X in the true sense of 40X, but like in Katie's 4 groups, one of the things that they do is every week they make 2 commitments towards whatever it is their group is working on. So if they're in charge of looking at new scheduling options or exploring that in any way, what is everyone on that committee doing this week? And so, no, it's not 40X from the standpoint we're going from X to Y by when, but taking that last component, because what we do know happens is, oh, let's look at some new schedules. Wouldn't that be really cool? And
nobody does.
then who goes in and does that? And so that's a component that I know they've incorporated within those committees, so that those committees don't then come back together every time and there's no new information or no, new things moving forward. So that was one of the things they used, pulling out a piece of the 40X system to say, hey, let's do this so that we don't walk away from here going, no, I'm supposed to do something.
Yeah, and it's really hard because I think it is my type A personality that wants to actually plan, because I'm on a team of there's 9 of us, the administrators, and out of the 9, when we do our personality and our energy stuff, there is me and one other person that are not dreamers. Like everybody just wants to continue dreaming. Like, okay, but who's gonna do stuff? And they all just look at me and say, well, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, they keep dreaming. And I'm like, I know that I tweeted that quote out yesterday about, because I have to keep telling myself that good leaders don't how a good idea to death, but wow it to life. And because all I can think is, okay, but how would we do that? Okay, how what are we gonna take away? Right. And so yeah, we're still in the dreaming phase.
We are very much in the dreaming phase.
Yeah. So you're really thinking like
you're right.
2
That
years?
commitment piece has been huge. Because, and they chose what committee they wanted to be on, because we didn't want people to be put on committees and not buy in, and they have very much had to be committed to each other, and they hold true to it. Because you're right, if there was no commitment there, yeah, let's look at schedules, but 6 months go by, kind of like your book study. Yeah, let's do a book study, and let's do it next month. I got busy.
So what are your committees?
The scheduling is one.
Here's Katie's. I just really quick texted her because I couldn't remember her exact title, and I asked her if Ginger's are the same. But so she at the elementary, she's working with. They have a social emotional, a scheduling, a course offerings, and a student-driven instruction. I feel like Ginger's. I really thought one of hers was a parent community involvement.
It was.
So I'm
community involvement.
I'm assuming for her
Scheduling.
course offering scheduling is probably where it
Social,
got.
emotional, and I'm not sure what the 4th one is.
So are your elementary and your high school different committees? Your elementary and high school are different committees?
Yeah, because
Okay,
they're 2
they're
different
not.
buildings.
Go ahead.
How is your board of education if they are involved in your process?
Very much. They were involved when we put the application in. Then once we got chosen, we had kind of a working session with them and talked about the benefits of Readiness. And ESDEC came and presented to our board. We give weekly communication with the board and board notes. So they, and 2 of our board members are married to staff in those buildings, so it's good.
We've done something called this direction time. They, from their board strategic planning that we did in September, we've taken a topic off of that, and each board member meeting they dedicate 20 to 30 minutes to discuss that topic, to look at where we should go. I'm the type A. That's when we get there. So we're not there yet.
I will say that today, Dr. Watson and other people are meeting with service center people because and how this came about is KSDE had so much requests for help with redesign. KSDE's that I mean, their staff numbers are going down, not increasing. I mean, you know, so that everybody's kind of, I don't know that I should say this, but I don't think Dr. Watson wants, here's the structure, you walk through this, because he wants us to be, but how can we provide supports across the state as we engage in redesign without going, here's the checklist you run through. And so I can next time report on potentially, you know, the information that's coming out of that meeting.
It's funny to me because it's kind of like, we're kind of like our students. We have been trained to use a checklist and go, okay, got it done, this is the format they wanted in. And now we're being required to, just think, just application level, just do it. And it's hard because we've never been required to do that or allowed to. Maybe that should be better.
Or expected.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun though. It's definitely good conversations and lots of fun stuff to dream about.
Anybody else? Let's do this. Let's take a 10-minute break until 10:40 and then we'll come back together and move.
Well, not really. And I can give it to them.
Right.
Yeah,
In 1819, they got these sort of.
we have to do certain things so that we will have.
Right, so basically, you have this introductory class, but you can bring that to the if you look at what we're asking you to do. Okay, and then this one would be funded at a high school, and you can teach this one American history forward, whichever one you want to do. And it's because everything's national subject. So what I'm saying is, they would get a credit of half, they get a half of credit.
Can we still do that this year?
This one for 18, but see, you're applying by March 15, so that you can do this for 18, 19. Because otherwise you don't get credit. In the application level, this is a full credit, but there again, it can be a line of government. So you could do this one with history, this one with government. Some places do a city experience instead of with this credit. And then you just have to. And one change they made this year is you have to offer business law or private law. Okay, but because it's available through Virginia it won't be a problem. I mean, this is doable for every single school district. And I know Betsy offers in county. See, you have to have 2 credits. See, you can have that one here, and you had accounting, you've got it. You're done.
Okay. And that's okay, done by March 15th.
So I thought that would help you, Randy, to see how to do this. And I said, Jay's going to talk about it. Well, it's not so see, when you teach 8th grade social studies, they don't have this. The same hour. When you teach American history, they don't put this together the same hour. then you teach government, they also do this. Okay, now, I know you offer accounting. And I think you offer, but I know you offer this one. And because this can be one of those 2 required credits. So there's one of the 2 right there, the one right up here is actually there. And business law, you can get through the virtual training. And not every kid has to take it, it just has to be available. So see how doable this is? See, that's what I wanted to make sure everybody was connected to the dots.
Okay.
About 3 hours. No, I didn't go in, I spent 8 days without breakfast.
They were paying us.
I want to make sure that you already have it. Well, what I'm saying, well, if you actually have it, well, that's great. See, a lot of places don't do it. And I'm just saying, are you doing it blended with
That's right.
American history?
We're in the house.
Okay, no, right.
I can check my phone.
I want to make sure everybody realizes.
We don't have to check it. I'll check it.
The change that they made.
But I do check it. But they said I can't go in. That's my fault. So I did take projects. We did, and I did my
But, as I said, it's that's you have to either do business law or the business law. So if you didn't have that option, you got that. Well, so you can do that. That's fine. Right.
All the.
I was kind of college.
And then you could take like a lot of
Like, so I did a year as a study on it.
just make sure that it's.
Just raised
Well, I just thought I'd make sure that you guys are connected, because I mean, everybody, without adding any teachers. Oh, I know.
It's never want to come back.
So I get everybody. One of the 9-year-olds. We're doing a blend. Physics, chemistry, biology. You're 1 of 2 this year. The next year will be like 2. That way every year I can training. We'll just keep rotating back and forth. That way, as these teachers go related without bringing that action training back, it's almost but there was just not about this. Hopefully that helps. And I'll stay in touch. I know they're revamping the way they're going to do this. education process. Which, remember when I came here, I literally had to do that. So as soon as that, I got a couple of webinars I have to sit through. I'll make sure that people are taking care of their
Oh, yeah.
Hello, there, Randy. I mean, that's, how do you do it's not small. And, they need $300. So,
He's got 2 hours and, well, there you go. I'm still operating. I still operate. Well, so I've got it on my list because I got it.
well, and Anderson. But this is what. That set up the work. It's still, I think it just makes sense to you, I'm sure. Well, but you might make sure that the work is, that way he's going to benefit. Huh? Okay.
I'm sure Jody's
Yeah, I know Jody's got the government, and her and I talked, so we got that. Well, I'm trying to get to 100%. Get where I'm at.
We used to have 2 days of stuff. Now what we're on is what staff are looking at person call everything. We get there. I have no idea. They sign up for yours now. You know. It's always something. Then it's always something. And then we're gonna do some salt. Yeah, I'm not sure they're gonna get it. Yeah.
And then this year. And if you need to come in and get okay. I just now, okay. Yeah, teaching webinar. Yeah, Janice, there's whole sticks on it.
Or at least.
And if so now the focus on that, Ron might want to look at it because we'll have, I want to go to physical science. And we'll have a crosswalk. I think that all teachers have struggled. They couldn't see how to break out of this. And now that I'm almost done the crosswalk. Like we really say, oh, so and then that way they can actually see, oh, I can get my practice on just make all the three for the does that make sense? All your
Whatever works for you all.
Okay. Okay, well, let me know if I can make it live. And I'm sure the superintendent will be all over the place.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do, Janice will be on the
Teresa.
Someone who needs to. So I thought that might be well, I mean, I think that would help you guys to see how.
I do too. And that's this comment. Oh, they have this huge update over that.
Which that's what
Again, you guys can't take me on. They'll be halfway through.
well, and that's
You guys start. Oh, yeah, there you go. Say it.
And that doesn't mean everything.
This is just making me go.
That's why it's all about in this, and they, you know,
I sent them, they were, just give me a call.
A little clarification.
I'm sure they want access.
Oh, okay, so tell me, what all do I need to follow?
That way, hopefully everybody can get it.
They're having all kinds of technical.
Oh, yeah,
Store had some problems.
We're gonna watch a video. Okay, let's go ahead and continue to go through our agenda. One of the things we have, one of the things that we talked about when we took the survey, people wanted to continue keeping the vision at the forefront from the state. So we have the learning modules, and I think we've done one so far, and the one we're going to go through today. And these are very short. We'll just have we'll have a quick discussion after. The one for today is kindergarten readiness. So. There it is. And some of you have probably seen this, but just kind of listen and. There are 4 questions in the module booklet that if you were taking this back to your district and doing it with administrators, you could obviously focus on all 4 of those if you wanted to. I just pulled one, and just what I'm going to have you do is turn to a shoulder partner and just share this information. And then the second part, I'm going to have you share out some information as a group about the ages and stages questionnaire and how you are possibly going to administer that in the fall, which for some of you that may affect your kindergarten screening or change up how you're doing things at the end of the year, or the beginning of the year with that group. So I think just kind of brainstorming some ideas with the group about how you can effectively go back and do that with your kindergarten teacher. So the first question is, and this one is in the module booklet, and you can just turn to a shoulder partner. Think about it for about a minute if you want to jot it down. What does high quality learning for all children look like in USD 402 or in your district? I think I got that wrong. What is it? Does it say early learning? I wrote it down wrong. Obviously, I can't read my writing. What do you want high quality early learning for all children to look like? And the question says in our community, but it could be in your district or in your building. So take a minute to think about that and jot something down, or keep it in your head, and then I'll have you in about a minute share with the shoulder partner. Again, what does high quality early learning look like for all children in your district? Thank you. All right, go ahead and just turn to, I guess, maybe a shoulder partner to your left and share maybe some of those qualities or components of a quality early learning program. You can do it in threes if you want.
How to deal with their stress.
Okay. Sorry about telling you to do it to the left. That really isn't right, but kind of wrap up your conversation with your partner. Again, I apologize for saying, oh, turn to your left. The next thing we're going to do, and if you don't have a plan in place or you have not brainstormed or talked about this in your district, this is a time just to share out some ideas. So as you do go back, if you are the person that's responsible for this or have some part in it or stake in it, you might take back an idea or two that you hadn't thought of. So as you move forward with ages and stages questionnaires, there's 2 of them, and they take about 10 to 15 minutes apiece. So this is an additional screener that we are doing with our kindergartners after or right at the beginning of the school year. It's not something, thinking back to the past, at least in our district, where we have a kindergarten screening or roundup. I'll call it kindergarten roundup in the spring. We take a couple days. We have some, you may have dial up, or we have our own district screeners that we give our kids, and which helps us figure out placement and such for the following school year, et cetera. We do all our health information. But now at the beginning of the year, we have to do these screeners as well. You can't do it in the spring. So many districts are kind of rethinking how they do their kindergarten informational meeting or their kindergarten roundup so they can get that data. I was meeting with someone yesterday, and one thing we talked about was the importance of having that ages and stages data or the reports available before the school year begins, so those teachers can really take a look at, say we have 40 kindergartners per school approximately, and truly dividing those kids up based on that data that we collected from the ages and stages. And then of course we can pull in the data from our district screeners as well. But right now our district screener doesn't have that it doesn't have that information in it. Our screener that we have now are more, I won't call them academic necessarily, some of them are, but it's just a better way, in my opinion, would be to use the ages and stages data to truly create your 2 kindergarten rosters or however many you have in your building. So I'm going to share what we are going to do, and then if you have a plan in place or you have questions about this, then you can share. So we're just going to have a kindergarten informational meeting in the spring, about 30 to 45 minutes, which we used to do 2 days. During school days, we get a sub for the teachers. They'd pull in kids for 2 days, do all the district screening. They get their health information, so they will get their health information, they'll get their enrollment packet, and they'll sign up for the staggered day, and they'll sign up for the kindergarten roundup, which we are now going to do between August 1st and 10th. The kindergarten teachers will be told or informed that, of course, they'll be trained on ages and stages as well, but they will have 10 days-ish to administer the ages and stages questionnaires to, say, the 40 kids that are shared between the 2 teachers, because they won't be in rosters yet. They will get paid for 2 days. They can chunk that time out however they want to. If they want to have 2 full days where they schedule kids to come in and do the ages and stages, or they do 4 half days, or they do 3 kids a day for 10 days, we don't care, as long as by the 10th they have those done. Then they can go in and put the rosters together before the beginning of the school year. That's how we are doing it. So we'll just kind of go around the table if anybody has something creative or different that you are doing to ensure that you administer these in a timely manner.
We're meeting with our teachers, but we're going to go ahead and do the parent night in the spring, so we can have a count, get all the reports and all that, but we'll do something in August. I don't know that.
What we're planning right now.
preschool teacher and the kindergarten teacher, I sent them to the training.
Mm-hmm.
And they were told that parents are supposed to fill that out.
They do.
But I suggested that they do it like a parent coming in and they fill out their teacher, the students, that the students can meet the teacher also.
Yeah.
And they can talk. So we're gonna have 2 days at the beginning of the school year and parents will sign up to come in and the kindergartners will come in during the very start.
During a contract,
Yes, they'll be the first 2 days.
so it'll be kind of like their staggered days.
So kindergarten will have scheduled.
Okay.
And then I got that activity book. You know,
Uh-huh.
And I was looking through it yesterday, and I really like it in that this teacher said some things. There were some toileting things in it that some of our families have problems with, and lots of neat suggestions. So together have that.
Yeah. The two questionnaires, and Penny, you tell me if I'm wrong. There's two different ones. One is merely the parents filling it out. Then the other one, you have to have a set of stuff and the child, where the child with the stuff is sitting there and they complete together. So
Yeah, social.
yeah, I can't remember which ones they are. So anybody else?
Well, we talked about, you're talking about high quality, I'm kind of shifting it a little bit.
That's okay.
High quality early learning. We're trying to work on offering 3 and 4 year blended program rather than just pre-K, and adding 3-year-olds to our program, and trying to blend Head Start and parents and teachers, blending it and rating that funding. I didn't know how territorial Head Start was, so make a phone call. But trying to figure out how that's going to work. That's what my vision is, to be really play focused. A high quality one would be to be seamless between all 3 or 4 year olds, whether in Head Start or our pre-K program, and there'd be lots of entities working together with them, and it would be 5 days a week, and it would be, that's what my vision is for it. But I need to pick Kenny's brain a little bit more, because evidently that is a very difficult task to accomplish with Head Start. Like, I hit the brick wall with Head Start. We had an immediately MOU understanding with all principals, and I got called by the state. I was like, I just asked a question.
Remember that the MOU is only good for 1 year, and we're all coming up on our MOU.
Yeah, I need to talk to Penny a lot about it, because it seems like such an easy task in my mind. Like, our rooms are right next door to each other. We would just like come and go, and it would be like a team collaboration, and they would sort of meet our employees, and it just isn't working.
You're not alone.
That's what I want. Like, I want them to come to our stuff too, and then we go to their stuff.
For those of you who don't know, I was a Head Start director for 9 years prior to coming to this position, for that as a principal. So I have a pretty deep understanding of Head Start, all the way from Washington. I was the one that always went to Washington for the state for advocacy and state. So I have a really good understanding of the strings of Head Start. So yeah, use me as a resource if you need to. We were a pilot school for ASQ. The other part she alluded to is ASQ. I've used for since I was Head Start for I've been my 11th or 12th year using ASQs, and I am a trainers. But it's different in the kindergarten world, I'm going to tell you that. But we did it 2 ways. Pilot school the first year, we just gave it all by paper because they weren't ready for us to do it online. So then this year, we tried it all online. We actually had better results, and as far as percentage of getting them back with the paper version. However, the paper version causes a lot of work on your end. You have to do all the data entry. I mean, and I can tell you, I got down to 8 minutes per assessment getting it in. Don't even have 100 of them. Think how many minutes that is sitting in the minute. Now I was making a game out of it. I was timing myself to see how fast I could.
I did too. When we beat the record, we'd run up and down the hall. 3 people working on it.
I would tell them, and I go, ooh, I have 80 minutes left, or So this is what we're going to do this year. We're kind of now doing a combination. know the numbers, and people know like which direction to park, all that kind of stuff. So, and then in the fall, our kindergarten teachers have 2 days where they meet with parents anyway, already one-on-one, prior to school start. And I think a lot of people do that, or do they do half days?
Some of ours do.
And so what they're gonna do, and we did it this year, and it works really well, we did the ASQSE. The parent does that while the kid is with the teacher. The teachers still want to do their little
Trainers.
checklists or their, the stuff that they need that's not on the ASQ, and just that relationship building piece that they do. So while they're doing that, the parent is on an iPad out in the hallway doing the ASQ on the student. Because you can do the SE, the social emotional piece, without the child there. Then when they exit, then there's going to be a station. This part we hadn't done before. This is the part we were always sitting home and we're getting back. We're going to have a station with the materials that you need to do the ASQ competence or the ASQ3. And the parent will do the ASQ3 with their kid and you use the iPad at that station and then leave to go home. So the parent or the grandparent or whoever's with the child at the time that brings them, that's part of the spring too, is let them know that this is going to happen. Make sure you give yourself an hour, 15 minutes to be at the school. Don't think you're just going to run in and run out, but you're going to actually be a participant. It'll take about an hour probably to be in the building. And so that's what we're going to do this year. So that way we get the best of both worlds, where we can get the online, so we're not doing all the input, and the parents also there, so they can get support training. Truly, we'll do that in August. We do 2 days before school, the 2 days before. Well, everybody else starts school. Our kindergarten starts the following week. Like usually we start Thursday, Friday, and our kindergarten starts on Monday.
You do that on Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, we'll probably do like a Thursday, Friday, or Wednesday, whatever, however it falls this year. It's usually, you have that short week. Our kindergarten teachers usually meet one-on-one with the parent and the kid anyway, and then they start full week the following week, so, or whatever it is.
So teachers are still under contract.
Yes, teachers are under contracts, we're not paying anything extra. If guard knows that in the full class and we start 2 days later, then the brothers and sisters.
So appointment wise, are you scheduling just, are they just one-on-one? I mean, I kind of wrote that.
Yeah, they schedule them by appointment and it is one-on-one. And they do some of that signing up was free, where they meet the phone calls and just slots. Kind of like parent conference slot, except it's more than 20 minutes. A lot, and very similar to that.
Just schedule a 30-minute teacher, because I know they
Yeah,
come in first and the parent is doing.
The teacher probably 30 minutes. Right. Well, yeah, they do about 20 minutes. But yeah, so they schedule them every 30 minutes apart. I could ask the teachers exactly how they do that. That's when we did the KSTP. I think Lindy was there. Anyway, that's why I brought the kindergarten teacher with me. Those are, they're the ones that are doing the work as far as that scheduling and so. If you have any questions about the ASQ, definitely go to SQ or how to do that.
Yeah.
You guys are creative.
I was gonna say maybe next month in the afternoon, maybe she could do, like I went and got trained, but it would be great, I think, to have a refresher to kind of go back through it and then talk to us about
I should
the report.
Yeah. You guys will get creative with what to do with that, quite honestly, but obviously,
Okay. That'd be great. Is everybody okay with that for the afternoon? It's a good timing too. Okay, perfect.
And even just how to access the ASQ website. There's even like the ASQ website itself, not just your online piece, but their website has a lot of resources and newsletters that you can learn from. Like they have even, like they just re-updated it, ASQ3, what you need at your center, what you need to do the ASQ3. It's a cute little check sheet. It has a little owl at the top, and it tells you exactly what you need to have there involved. It has, so it keeps it so simple.
Well, if you would do that, that would be appreciated.
Okay, just as a reminder, if you didn't order Spanish resources and I know a lot of you did, you're big enough that you're like, I'm just gonna order one of those. KSCE sent all of the service centers. Now the bad component is they won't have online access because your kit number goes to your online access, so it's going to all be paper and pencil for the Spanish version, which is the only version they sent us. But
we have whatever you might need, or like that activity book. I'm fairly confident they've even sent us all of those. If you need something in a Spanish piece. So.
And then I also share with you, like many of those guys read that, but there's some tricks to even like when you get your kid numbers, like when you log on first. Not much guys all go through what I did, had to wait 2 weeks to get my number fixed because they had this stuff. I accidentally put everything under one school.
So did I.
And I was like, oh my
Mine
gosh.
is still under it.
And I
I don't know how to get it changed. So we're all under Bueller Grade School.
Yeah.
And Bueller Grade School wasn't part of the pilot.
I screwed it up totally. So, but see, those are little tricks that I wish somebody had told some of us that, because my head secretary did what I wanted to start. I didn't have to do that part. More secretaries and all this stuff. So now I don't have to be a secretary. So I wish somebody had taught me that. So I'll go over and teach you guys some of the tricks.
We'll spend the afternoon then next time doing that. That would be awesome. Any other things anybody would like to share about early childhood or screener, questionnaire, whatever?
We have gotten rid of our kindergarten roundup in the spring, and we changed it to pre-K roundup because we have so many. We have most of our pre-K already in our buildings, and so like the information was pretty much saying they already have a Power School account, they already have an enrollment, they already are.
That's what we did in math. We
So
did pre-K
We
roundup.
spent a pre-K roundup, kindergarten, parent night, and then August, and then I assume we got our ideas from you. So thanks.
Oh.
When your kindergarten teacher is best friends with the expert pre-K, it helps.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna run through a couple of things that are here on the agenda. The next item, and this is one of those ongoing.
Can I say one more thing about the
Yes.
ASQs? Just be aware it's coming, that ASQs are gonna be required for you to as well. Okay,
Oh,
we're
pre-K?
really not as piloted.
For pre-K?
There's like 10 districts in the state that are piloting that really help. So just heads up, I have a feeling that's coming. I don't know it, they haven't said it, but why would they be having us do it if they weren't exploring it? So just heads up.
Okay,
Okay, sorry.
but that's good data too. The next item on the agenda is textbooks and curriculum resources, and this is just a reminder, and this is just helpful resources for the group. If you click on the link that is there,
It's hot corners on. You have to show me how to turn it off.
and you all can click on it, you have your agenda. It says what districts have adopted, and as we, most of you, us, are in charge of at least partially responsible for helping with curriculum adoption and going through that process with your staff or your committees each year, whether you're on a cycle or however you decide to adopt something in a certain year. It's very helpful many times to see what other districts are using, not because you necessarily want to adopt that, but as a resource. So as you, let's say you're going to look at 4 different vendors or products through your evaluation process, and you're looking and you're evaluating, and maybe you get it down to 2 or 3. If you know people that, in this group that have possibly adopted it, they can give you some feedback. Another thing, some districts will have their teachers go out and observe in a classroom that is using that particular curriculum. We do that every once in a while if we get it down to 2, and it's just really, really close. We'll work or go visit a couple of school districts and kind of have an evaluation, not an evaluation tool, but some questions that we ask the teachers about it. So this would be a way to figure out, oh, we could go over to Bueller and we could go over to Cheney because they are using those particular curriculum. And sometimes just having links to what's there and knowing what's available, especially for those of you that are newer to the position, you don't always know what products are out there or who to call or any of that. So that's really just what this document is, just an ongoing piece to, or resource to have access to.
What if you're just so old, you're too embarrassed to put it on there? Is that why you're empty?
You can put your name on there and put really old.
Don't do this.
No, if I would say if it's really old and you're getting ready to do something new, I wouldn't Any questions about that?
I just didn't want you to think that was,
It's
I was
okay.
ignoring and.
The next item, and we haven't talked about this much, and it's KISA. And I know all districts, and what I'll probably, let's just do this, because I don't think we've had this conversation, is let the group know what year or group that you're in. Again, this is just one of those things where if you have some questions about how you're proceeding or moving forward, if you're in group 3 or group 5 or group 1, obviously the things that maybe you're doing might look a little bit different than if you're in a different year. So let's just do that real quick before we start. Let us know if you're, is group 1 the one that you're going to go through the whole 5 years, or is it the other way around?
Yes.
You're doing all 5. Okay. So just share that so you can kind of put some faces with the numbers that match what you're doing in your district. Teresa?
1,
3,
1.
2, 1.
We're different, we're advanced ed. 2, 1.
3.
Okay. One thing that we started doing last year, and there are some documents down under here under the 5R data and evidence. And I think with the charts, we as a group started kind of throwing down on chart paper some different examples of evidence from the different R's. So it just got us to thinking about different things districts are doing under those different 4 R's. And this may be overkill, and if you guys do not want to do this, this is fine. We can just continue to have some conversations about it. But we talked about this, I think it was last spring, and as a group, we were sitting here and we created, I think I created it, but it was something that we talked about putting a directory together, I guess you could call it a directory, that has evidence examples under each category. So if you open it up and up, like for example, up at the top, and I just kind of started adding a couple things just as examples, but if we were to start with relationships, if this is something you want to do, and let's just talk a little bit about it. As you move forward with KISA, and you are doing different things under each of these R's and then under the various components, obviously evidence of sorts is going to be required. So putting in some examples of what you're doing, and then obviously the evidence would come with it. Okay. Maybe I didn't explain that right, but so then as we're looking and we're moving forward, if your district is working on a specific R and you're really struggling or you're needing some ideas of different things to do, you could look at this and see, oh, Augusta's doing these 3 things. Oh, and that's something we were talking about. I could give Holly a call because they're using that in their district, and I can see if it's good, bad, or is something that we should just skip and move on. Because it can get a little bit overwhelming with all of this. And if you're like our district, there's some areas where we're not doing squat. I mean, I need some ideas. I'm sure you do in different areas, or we need to improve and do a better job, or at least collect evidence. We need to be using some different types of tools to help us see what progress that we're making, in different areas. So thoughts, ideas, we can scrap this. Again, this is just something we put together last spring and we haven't done really anything with it. So would this be helpful, or is this just something?
I think it's really helpful.
Maybe focus on one at a time, or?
I think it's early yet for a lot of us, if you're 1 or whatever it is, but I think it'll become bigger as.
Any other thoughts from anybody?
If we do those things, do we just add our district behind?
See how I did this?
Listing them separately?
What is a panorama survey?
There's a gal doing a little demo on it.
Oh, so you're saying.
You can do it.
Yes. I'm just.
Oh, yes. Like if it's a repeat, just put your name. And is there a better way to do it? I think it's important that you put the district name by it, because otherwise you're not going to know who to talk to about it. So. Oh, who did that? Edit and do. the history, and if somebody goes in and deletes everything, I can pull up an older version, so no need to panic. Now, here's my question. Does everybody know how to insert not just a link, but how to, like, see how I did ACT Engage? And then I put a link is underneath it. Does to keep it clean, would you like me to show you how to do that, or does everybody know how to do that? Okay.
I thought I knew how, but let's see.
Now let's, and then of course this is on a Mac, so I might have to have you do it. Okay. So what I typically, and there's lots of different ways to do this, but you can type out, like I typed out ACT Engage before I put a link in it. And let's say that somehow, like in Google, you've gone in and you've copied a link of a document, or you copied a link that's out online somewhere, and you hold on to that. So I typed in ACT Engage, and behind the scenes I've copied the link that needs to go there. Then what you do is you highlight your black words. So I would highlight.
I'm gonna just grab a link of something that doesn't matter.
You'd highlight your black words that you want eventually to be the link.
So I put this as a test, and so I have highlighted just the word test. I'm going up here to this sideways paper clip.
And then you paste what you had copied behind the scenes right there and apply. Now that link will show up just as the words. And 90% of the time, really, it just makes it so it's shorter. And so a lot of times I'll just write the word link. It depends if it's something where I'm like, go to the following link, and I'll type the word LINK. I go copy the link, and then I highlight the black word link, and then you go up there to the little link tab, and then you paste it in. It's really just more of a makes it look better. You want us to do it again, or is everybody good?
Now, if it's a document, which this is what I had to have Holly help me with this morning because I didn't know quite how our folders work, is like you were taking us to a document you have, you would put that document in your Google folder and then have it give you the link for that. Versus it being a link to the website.
Does everybody know how to do a link from Google? Yeah.
So I dropped in Cleela's pathway document today into my Google Drive. And then when it's open, I went to share behind this screen here. I went to share, chose get shareable link, and then I copied that link. One of the things you might want to make sure when you do that, like SDAC's Google is set up that it only shares within the organization, you've got to choose to share outside.
This is what I've done a lot. Remember how last year, like, we would have a document and you couldn't open it? Because, like, if I didn't click advanced here, it would just, people at Augusta would have access to it or whatever it was defaulting to. So if you go to, oh,
well, because I'm not logged in as me right here.
If you go to advanced, when you, it's funny, can you go to a different document that's yours? Just open up.
I don't need to ask permission for me. I am me.
Yeah. That would make sense of why Steve was popping around on it was you. Steve.
Okay. If you go to advanced, and then you go up at the top, it'll give you additional options of who can see that document. And it'll say anybody that has access to this link can open, and you have the option to do it as edit or view mode. Then you don't have to necessarily share it with them. If they just have access to the link, they can open it up, and I always just give viewing rights unless it's a specific group that I'm wanting to edit. And then that takes away that whole, I can't open it up, like it's locked, like it won't, and it's because you're not part of maybe an Augusta group or whoever the group is designated for that particular document. But Any questions on the copying of the link? No stupid questions. So let's do this. Do we want to focus on all of them and then each time take a little bit of time to add, or do we just want to focus on one at a time? I don't know. I know it's really early in the game, but we just want to add to any category as you have examples. You think? Would it be advantageous to just give you time to do it during this meeting, or should we have it as a, can you send me out a reminder to go in and add things in, or? Because at some point I want people to start sharing some of the things that they're doing, not just have it here, but actually talk about it, so you know what those things are, and you can ask questions and such. Okay. I'll just tell you what to do then.
We like that.
I'm just kidding. Okay. The next thing that's on our list, and this is always on here, and I know it sounds really silly, but this is actually a really helpful document. Whether it be the beginning of the year, your superintendent comes up and I need a dynamic speaker to come in and talk, or somebody to fill in an hour. This is that document you can go to that'll have the different names of people that our districts have had come in that we feel, I guess you could put somebody on there and say do not with them, but really it's great people that we've had come out that we got positive feedback from, our staff, and that they thoroughly enjoyed and had a great message. So there's typically the name, the topic, the contact information, and then who in our group shared it, so you can talk to them about that presenter. So please, as a reminder, continue to add things in there as we go. And it looks like it grows just a little bit every year.
Is Annie McKay still, she before was like, she changed roles or something. She came and talked to us about, I'm looking at you because you put her on the list, Monty.
We've got her coming for a in-service next week. I thought specific of her.
Oh.
Eric Sugar is.
Okay, so she probably is in the
I
same.
think so.
She was really good. I just was curious. I thought maybe she was told that she.
I don't think so.
And I know KIC is publicizing her like crazy, but Sam Neal is an excellent speaker. And she can speak on many things, so she speaks with a lot of passion. Really good.
What does she teach?
High school English.
I worked there.
Good. I'm glad
You and Eric's supposed to talk.
Yeah, we'll work something out. I did.
Anyhow,
We'll work something out. She can think about it. She's so close. And she, you know, her story is amazing. So she fosters the kid and adopted him. She talks about the traumatic stuff, and she talks about English curriculum and great stuff.
I know Jay's on here for CTE plans of study. Jay's moved to Creekside. Plans of study would be Kathleen Mercer. General CTE would be Stacy.
I haven't heard those guys speak.
Kathleen knows what she's doing with individual plans of study. I haven't heard Stacy other than CTE administrator.
Thank you. We had in fact of those yesterday.
Did she just do a one?
She did one building the property simulation.
Oh, she did the actual simulation.
You know, and it was pretty powerful in our district because poverty is really not an issue that we really have to deal with on a daily basis. So you wonder, well, why cover come? Well, because it was more about relationships for us. That's the reason we had it, and mindsets and not being so judgmental and assuming that all parents work the way you work in your home. We had teachers in tears in the afternoon about, you know, I need to take a chill pill and come back. And so it was awesome. Highly, highly recommended.
She was in our district on Wednesday doing day 2
And yeah, amazing.
On that note, she's having Jim Sporlinger come back. If any of you got to come to the poverty conference, trauma conference we put on in the fall, we're doing that again next fall. He is coming back. We moved the date, and don't ask me. It's being finalized right now. In fact, Jim Sporlinger is next door. But it's going to be Columbus Day and the next day. So when I say the date, I know it's Columbus Day and the next day. And we did that on purpose because we had several districts who were like, I want to send several people, but I can't, you mentioned it earlier, the sub thing is a problem. And so we'll have both a 1-day and a 2-day registration because maybe, these 3 or 4 are coming back for day 2, but I want, this big group. And so as you're thinking about your calendars or whatever, just
October 8th and 9th.
thank you.
Not a dynamic speaker, but if anyone, just because it's related to the topic of poverty, if anyone's looking for a good, personal read, just a book to read, Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance, it's amazing. It's a personal experience story written by a gentleman who grew up in the Appalachian Mountains in some really high poverty and is now a Yale-educated lawyer. It's just his story. And I actually listened to an hour of it on the way here on Audible, and even though it's different, kind of a different region, our kids in the Midwest go through the same thing. And hearing that personal experience and just thinking, wow, how many of our kids come from homes that are exactly like this? And it's just fascinating. And there's lots of research and statistics and data, and also it's really, really good if anyone has time to read or listen to it. Just for fun. Not fun, I don't know. Because you want to.
Okay, we have just a little bit of time, just to get feedback, or would you like to spend this time just, because at the very beginning, we focused on one thing, which was great. But would you like to go around the table like we normally do, if we have some time to share out some information, or if you have a question about something, what's your preference? Or we could dismiss a little bit early for lunch and then come back and maybe start a bit early this afternoon.
I'm gonna do that.
Do we have time to go
Yeah, and we do have a full afternoon, so what do we do? Okay, so this afternoon it's social, what did I call it? Yeah. Jody Grover is going to be spending a majority, and her time will be longer than this, but she has a plethora of resources and information to share with the group. Before that, Sam Seeker is from Panorama, and that is a social emotional survey that has resources or a toolbox that you can use. She's just going to do a brief overview for that. That's something that we're piloting in our district this year. You can use it. I don't know if it's pre-K, but K through 12. So she's just going to share that with you so you can see what it is and then answer questions that you might have. And of course, if you're interested, you can contact her after today and work with her on that. But Jody will take a majority of the time, and then if there is some time left after that, or even if we come back early from lunch, there's some resources that I pulled from various places that I just wanted to share very quickly. That are out there. And then if anybody else has something to share as well, you can. So we have a pretty full afternoon. I think it'd be very valuable for those of you that are able to stay. And if you can't stay for the whole thing, that's okay too. Stay as long as you can.
Before you head out, we're bringing in George Kuros in April, the Innovator's Mindset, for $50 for anybody who wants to. It's a half day. We have a session in the morning and a session in the afternoon. They're exactly the same, $50. If you're interested.
What day?
It's April 27th, last day of the assessment.
And how do we enroll?
I can send you the brochure, or you can call the Learning Center, email Penny, or
Can you put the contact information?
yeah, I can put the flyer in that. But
Put it in the housekeeping area. All right, so what's the vote? We now come back at 12. Is it 12:40? That sound good? Okay. 12:40 is an hour. Good for everybody. TJ Maxx shoppers. Okay, we'll see you
rude.
I know, I'm feeling like, I don't wanna be
As long as
rude.
you can, and Jody will be, it's
I
fine.
know.
Yeah, and like I told Jody, she's got a
It's a lot.
she's got a lot of stuff, and she's gonna partially go off of what are your needs. I mean, you know, so, yeah, she's got a couple of things that she's like, I think they need to know these two pieces that are coming out new, but,
So that's the NVIDIA, so I can look at it on my phone.
oh, well, yeah, we
Yeah.
can start again, we just, yeah.
Well, we'll just keep. I don't know how that. Well, it'll be two different. Anyways, well, yeah, we'll record it. Yeah, we got it.
It'll be recording and then I can.
I guess we can stop it.